Georgia Virtue presents the Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong podcast. Welcome to episode 202. We've got a great show with an awesome guest coming up. I'm Dave Roberts. With me is my partner in this endeavor, writer, journalist, owner of the Georgia Virtue and dog mom, Jessica Szilagyi.
Hi, Dave.
How are you?
I'm warm. How are you?
Cold. Well, I'm not actually cold, but it has been a chilly week.
Yeah.
But no icy weather, despite what was forecast early last week, that we were all looking forward to having horrible weather over the weekend. And it turns out that was erroneous.
I am shocked to my very core.
I know you had a little issue with your heat, and now it's all nice, warm, and cozy, and the dogs are happy again.
It is. I had a problem. I think everyone hates, no offense, but everyone hates having to call the HVAC company because you know that it's probably going to be expensive. It's not like, and it's not something that I can fix myself, but they opened it up and, I kept trying to like fix it and reset and use all these things on the internet and everything. And a wire on the inside was completely split and frayed connecting to the heat strips, which means that like no matter what I did, it wasn't going to get warm. So, sometimes we have to ask for help and that really sucks.
Yeah, but of all the possible scenarios I gave you when we talked, that was the least expensive possible scenario.
Sure. And the guy was like, it took him no time at all. I mean, he fixed the wire and was like, all right, well, let me just make sure everything's running right and you have a great day.
Awesome.
So, yes.
Awesome service. That's what every company should strive for, and not every company does.
Nope.
A lot of people would have hem and hawed for 3 hours, charged you $500 and told you need new stuff.
Yep.
So, speaking of spending money, Ahmaud Arbery trial cost taxpayers $1.08 million in security costs alone. It ain't over yet, folks.
It's insane. $1 million for security. And, they're about to have that federal trial. I think it starts in February. So, and even though it's a federal case, they've said that the Glenn County Sheriff's Office will once again be responsible for handling the security outside and on the steps of the building and everything. But the feds will go ahead and handle everything on the inside, which I think is
thanks.
Freaking hilarious. You know what?
I'll take care of the security on the inside. If you take care of everything on the outside,
right.
I'll handle on the inside. I got this, folks.
I also have just so many issues with the fact that $1 million was expended because they were paying people overtime. They were bringing people in from outside agencies. They had to put them up in hotels and pay for gas and meals and all kinds of crap like that. But there weren't any protests. Like nobody was violent. Nobody was rowdy. And we know that if people want to get rowdy, like we know from the riots and everything, if they want to do it, they're going to do it. I don't think that was their intention.
Well, not that it was ever likely, had it come back anything other than guilty, had it come back mistrial, had it come back, God forbid, not guilty, anything like that, yes, that there might have been some things get out of hand. But for the entire length of the trial, I understand bringing in people for the verdict, or being prepared, okay, the defense is going to rest. We're about to do final arguments. Let's go ahead and bring people in. But to bring in full staff for the entire length of the trial seems...
And they spent over a week doing jury selection alone, which is not controversial. I mean, it's excessive. And the federal hate crimes trial is... I don't think it's going to be brief because they're going to be picking jurors from 43 counties around Southeast Georgia. And of course, they're going to screen some of them, but it's insane.
You're guilty now. You're extra guilty.
Yeah, you've got life in prison, so let's double down.
Good Lord. I don't know. I mean, I understand this ensures that enough get out. I don't understand. I know there are legal scholars and learned members of the bar who tell me why I'm wrong. I don't understand how this is not double jeopardy.
Because they're not charging them with the same offenses. So
yeah, but it's the same crime.
Right, but it's different acts, and the federal government has asserted this sovereignty thing where they basically claim that, you know, they have the jurisdiction to go beyond the state offenses and charge for civil rights violations. And they do it all the time. But
I know they do it. I know that they do it all the time. I also know that you can commit one crime and get charged for 5 different offenses, which again, I don't understand. If it's armed robbery, how do I get 15 different offenses for armed robbery?
I agree. And I also think that, you know, it's wrong on both ways. It's wrong to throw the book at them twice and double down for no like efficient or justice oriented purpose. It's also wrong when a state level jury finds somebody not guilty and the feds are like, well, we don't like that, so we're going to charge them too. Like that's also, I mean, it's the federal government was never supposed to be prosecuting offenses like this outside of national security, the military, interstate commerce, things like that. This is totally out of bounds.
Oh yeah, it's an executive overreach. Speaking of overreaching, did you hear about the political candidate who's following sexy girls on social media? Yeah, I guess you have.
Yeah.
So Heisman Trophy winner turned Senate candidate Herschel Walker gets dragged through the mud for following OnlyFans models on Instagram.
Oh my God. Oh, like, how disturbing.
The material is quote unquote racy. You know,
I don't give a shit.
Yeah, I don't care if he's on OnlyFans, you know, paying girls to take their clothes off. First of all, I believe he's single. Secondly,
which personality?
Yeah, exactly. Secondly, even if he was married, that'd be between him and his wife. And if he wants to, I mean, whatever he wants to look at is his business. It's almost like he's a man and he likes looking at pictures of pretty girls.
Well, Gary Black, their campaign is going after him for it, and his campaign spokesperson Dan McClagan, who is fairly, I mean, he's been involved in a lot of campaigns. Karen Handel, David Belle-Isle, a lot of statewide. He's a pretty popular communications director for these. And for Gary Black's campaign, his quote was, "Stalking and domestic abuse are disqualifying by themselves," referencing to his dissociative disorder stuff that happened with his ex-wife. But he said, "But a porn addiction would be a significant third strike. That's just handing the Senate to the Democrats."
A porn addiction.
That escalated quickly.
First of all, that means Gary Black's a prude. We're not talking about
I don't want to know what any of them think about.
If you think a girl in a bikini is porn, we're just not going to get along.
Well,
that's just the way it is. If you think Playboy is porn, we're just not going to get along.
Well, I mean, the Senate is already owned by the Democrats. Warnock already has the seat, so they're not handing anything to him. And if people are so dense that they think that, I mean, is there really nothing else that you can go after Herschel Walker over than going through who he follows on Twitter? What is it next week? Are we going to read about his followers? Who cares?
Right. The fact is, Gary Black's not interesting enough to follow anybody on Instagram because he has no idea what it is.
Well, he's too busy regulating onions.
Right. Right. And this is the weakest attack I've ever seen. It's never have I liked Herschel Walker more than have Gary Black.
I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah, but I said more than to say, oh, he follows models on Instagram. So, sure, if you go through my Facebook and different groups that I'm in. Like, look at what Dave's into. No, there's just different groups I've been invited to.
Yeah, I don't care if they're packing porn to go into the Capitol or, watching dirty movies in between committee meetings. I don't care. That is the least...
That's about the least offensive thing they could be doing.
Exactly. Like, those things don't impact my life, and their decisions aren't costing me money or limiting my freedoms. So, whatever.
Right. They're grasping at straws here in the Black campaign. They know that he doesn't have the name recognition that Walker does. He's just lobbing bombs. And honestly, they're duds because nobody cares. Like, my social media hasn't blown up on this. I just happened to see a blurb on this somewhere else. And like, what? And went and researched a little bit and found this story about it. I'm like, wow, that's a porn addiction. He needs to talk to people who've actually talked to David Duchovny, who's actually had a porn addiction.
Yeah, I agree. If we still had a loser of the week segment, Gary Black would definitely claim the title.
Absolutely. I mean, he wouldn't know because I don't think he would know how to use a podcast, so someone would have to tell him.
True.
Can you imagine getting him on to record and going through the process of recording this show? Huh? What?
We'll have to talk about my background with Gary Black next week on Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong.
Joining us now is special guest this week, Neil Singleton of Tatnall County. He's also a congressional candidate for Georgia's 12th District. Neil, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, appreciate it. I like being on here talking to you guys.
I'm super excited that Neil's joining us because I've known him for quite a while now, obviously covering Tatnall County and Southeast Georgia. But I think it's important to mention like what connected Neil and I in the beginning, which was Tatnall County Magistrate Judge Eddie Anderson.
Yeah, good Eddie.
Yes. He's the judge that tossed me out of his office a couple years ago and yelled at me and said, good day, young lady. Mm-hmm. And I think you had about the same experience, except he didn't say good day or young lady.
Pretty much the same experience that landed Eddie in a federal court and me winning a judgment against him. So, yeah, it's probably about the same thing. He probably thinks of you and I on the same level, so don't feel left out.
And the other guy who thinks of us on the same level is a show favorite, Mayor Van Johnson. We both sued him.
Yes. Yeah, good man. He doesn't, I don't know if he doesn't understand the laws or recent court rulings about like freedom of speech and stuff, but he feels that he's above them. So he got checked twice. He got checked with mine, and then he really got checked in yours. So I mean, I'm really glad that you came in after mine and did the same thing. Actually, you did more than I did, but kudos. Everybody appreciates it.
Well, I mean, we've talked about it on the show before, and like he was such an easy. First of all, he's an easy target because he's so outright and forward about how he's willing to suppress speech and shut dissenters up. But second, like it just felt good against him because of his policies.
It did. I really think that his policies, in the last 2 years, and the new council there, they're really. In my personal opinion, they're destroying Savannah, and I love Savannah. Yeah. I've been part of Savannah since 1993 when I was stationed at Hunter Army Airfield. But I just hate to see how it's went from what it was way back then to what it is now, and I really just hate even going to Savannah anymore.
Yeah. Do you wear Kevlar?
I don't wear Kevlar, but I wear something else. So
yeah, fair enough. Well, now you're running for Congress, and, well, actually, I should back up one more thing. That one other time where Neil and I had far too much fun was you were a candidate for state senate last 2 years ago, right? 2 years ago now?
Yep, so 2 years.
It was pandemic, yeah.
Yep.
And I moderated a debate, and there were 5 of you or 4 of you?
4, me, Kathy, Scott, and Billy.
Yes, and I asked them about their position on the Second Amendment, and everyone's giving all these milquetoast answers, and Neil's holding a microphone and looks around. He's like, I'm carrying a gun right now. And the faces of all three of them were like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like this is a Republican primary debate too, which was fantastic.
Yeah,
so,
I think that pretty much solidified my stance on the Second Amendment.
Yeah. But we go back a ways, and so I'm glad you're here to talk about your campaign. So I guess maybe start off with why in 2022, in the times of chaos, you would want to voluntarily go to Congress.
You know, I've been asked this question a few times, and I really don't think there's a really good answer for me other than I see what's happening in Congress. I've looked at what the current rep has done, Mr. Rick Allen, and it's not that Mr. Allen has been a horrible representative for the 12th, but he votes in ways that favors big donors, favors his businesses, his main business, his construction business, and he run on his first run in his campaign way back in 14 was he was running on, term limits and not lifetime politician statuses and stuff. And I really think now it's just time for newer blood that may be able to get away from far right politics to become more right of center, more willing to work with the other side to get what should be done for the American people and not what should be done just for one particular side of the aisle. And I think that's the way Mr. Allen operates. He's a one-sided aisle type of guy. So I really think we need change. If we're going to move forward for the best of everybody, we got to have change in many parts of the Republican Party.
The job sucks, right?
I know the job sucks. And, what makes it suck even more is that it's a good salary. It's $175,000 a year or so.
Yeah, but you got to maintain 2 houses.
Yeah.
And 1 in D.C.
I know, and we're looking at that. And I talked to my wife about it, and I'm not a fancy person. I don't need fancy names. I don't even own a suit right now. I think for the most part, for the first year, I'm going to do the freshman congressman thing, and most of my time will be spent in the office on the couch. Some people don't like that, but I think that's the way it's going to be. Because I'm not there for money. I don't want a fancy apartment in there. And actually, 50% of my salary, or nearly 50%, is going to St. Jude's cancer research. So to me, it's not about the money. It's not about living a lavish lifestyle. I just want change, and it's going to suck. It sucks right now. I mean, yesterday I got threatened by somebody calling me, threatened to kill me because they didn't like me and called a far left zealot on the internet. So it sucks, and it sucks bad, but I'm willing to do it because it's...
getting threatened to be killed is just a Thursday for me. I'm married.
Yeah. My wife threatens to kill me when she wakes up every morning because I toss and turn, but this is it sucks running. It sucks because I really think it sucks even more because we are running in a time of social media, and everything you do or you say, especially when your name on your Facebook is Neil Singleton for Congress, Georgia 12th, something like that. And everything you say gets taken to the next level. I could tell somebody, good morning, stay warm today. You don't care about me being warm? Okay.
That's true.
And I'm like, okay, it's just me trying to be nice. Calling somebody to be a zealot is being nice, but hey,
Why don't you mention a little bit about your background, like why, because Rick Allen, obviously he's very well connected and he's become more connected as he's been a congressman, but he had a unique background in being a businessman in Augusta, and he actually ran in the primary one time and lost because people didn't know who he was, and then the second time, at that point he'd been running for 4 years and he had a lot higher name recognition. Mm-hmm. But people didn't really know much about Rick Allen, and he didn't have anything that I don't think that like made him uniquely qualified to be our congressman. So talk a little bit about your background and kind of, because I mean, you mentioned a little bit of time in the military, but
yeah, well, I spent some time in the military, in the Army. Was nothing special, did nothing special. From the Army, I ventured on into at first, this was in the early 90s. I've been a truck driver. I've owned my own trucking business, but then I got into law enforcement, which started in Denver, Colorado. A police officer in Denver, and from Denver, found my way back to Savannah, where I became a Savannah police officer for a while. Then I met my wife early 2010, 2011 or so. I can't remember exactly. I do know the anniversary coming up though. But after we met her, we moved to Tappan County, where she's from. One of the biggest reasons I think I started looking at politics, especially with the Senate race in Georgia against Billy Hickman and them, was the Department of Family and Children Services. We were foster to adopt parents, and after seeing how the foster parents are treated, especially foster to adopt parents, the lies, the deceit that the employees do, and what we went through, we started fighting for a baby's rights, and ended up filing against the state and against DFACS for what happened to us, because a DFACS worker created multiple fake Facebook accounts and used our pictures and were making false statements on the internet using fake Facebook and social media accounts, which was proven in court. But for the state law, they couldn't be held accountable. They were protected because it was in the duty of their jobs, is what the AG said. And it was at that point in time, it was that day I got threatened with arrest at Tappan County Sheriff's Office, because I thought I was meant to kill somebody. They took our baby boy we had a year with over some bullshit, to be honest. And that was the day I decided to get into it, knowing just how corrupt the entire system is, because I've been on the other side where I've been part of the system charging people and putting them in jail. And I've been on the side where I've been accused of something that was later cleared up, but it still, for a period of 2 or 3 years, ruined my life. But in the end of it, there was nothing wrong. I don't think a lot of people see both parts of the spectrum like I have. I think that gives me a lot of insight to say, I've been there, I've done that. I've been there, I've done that. And hopefully that sits well with people, saying he is a common person that understands the struggles of low and middle income families, the struggles of being a police officer in today's times, the struggles of the trucking industry or owning a small business, and also the troubles with DFACS and what parents can go through with them. So I think all together, if you can muddle that all together and get a good name out there and a good story like that out there, then I think more people will resonate with that. That's my hopes anyway. But that's really why I got into it, is seeing how the system is so corrupt on both sides, not just the side of a police officer or side of a civilian or government work. It's corrupt on each side of them, and somebody's got to bring everything to the middle, and hopefully that's me.
What are the top 3 issues that you're looking for or looking to address when you get to Congress?
The top 3 would be, everybody wants to hear Second Amendment. I don't see our Second Amendment rights going anywhere, and I don't never vote on legislation like that. I think right now most people they're concerned with health, money, and freedom. And I'm for limited government. I really want to bring a more radical approach to taxes, immigration, and veteran services. I'm a big thing about veteran services. But
so let's talk about the.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's talk about like you talked about a more radical approach to taxes and immigration. What does that mean for you?
Well, my tax plan, the way I do taxes is a little bit over 70% of people, of citizens in the United States, that pay their, and I can only talk about federal, not talking about state taxes or anything. About 70% or so, a little bit over that, pay in taxes, and they get back nearly every penny they paid in. Some get back thousands more than they paid in, using the child tax credits or, married and stuff like that. And that's happened to us. I'm not going to die. We paid in $4,000 of taxes and got back $6,000 back. That, to me, I look at that, it's nice for my wallet. It's not nice for America as a whole. So my radical approach would be to just stop taxing people on incomes, single people to $125,000, married couples to $350,000 on the federal level. Just stop it, because that's where our biggest tax refund status people are when it comes to incomes. They are the people who get back more taxes, but they nearly get back every penny they paid in. I think we can.
That'll send the divorce rate down.
Well, that'd be nice. But I think people, and they say, "Well, I want my big refund." Why? If I can tell you, I'm not going to tax you on a federal level. Your refund is every paycheck.
Mm-hmm. You're going to keep what you earn.
Yeah, and people say, so you just want to tax the wealthy. The wealthy right now, the top 3% of earners pay more than the bottom 87% of earners combined in taxes, something like that. It's
yeah.
They don't. It's not that the wealthy people don't care. They don't want to be taxed either. But I'm also giving them the same. My plan gives them the same tax break. Their first $125,000 is free. Their first $350,000 is free if they're married, and then that's when their tax brackets start. It's equal to all citizens, besides the fact that once you earn this much money, we're going to tax you. I understand that.
Okay.
Taxes are not going anywhere. No, I hate to say this, and I know this. You have libertarians and stuff like that, but no taxes. Taxes are not going anywhere. I wish they would. It would take another Revolutionary War, but Congress is not just going to stand up and say, we're not going to tax anybody. It'll never happen. And I think running on that kind of platform is disingenuous to say, no taxes, I'm not going to tax you. But in one way or another, you're going to pay a tax.
I don't disagree with that. I mean, it's totally disingenuous to say that, you're in favor, and when you get up there, you're going to do X, Y, and Z, knowing full well that you can't. I mean, of course, we would all like that, but I do, even though I think all taxation is theft, and as a libertarian, I want to see us start at zero and then go from there. Again, I know in reality, we never will, like you said, unless people take up arms and there's a complete start over from the beginning, and I don't foresee that happening right now. So,
yeah,
that takes us back to where you are.
Yeah. So when a politician is running saying, "I don't want to tax you," I don't want to tax you. Problem is, you're going to be taxed because it's just I would be lying to you to say that's something I could run on.
Well, they say they don't want to tax you, but then they vote for the budget.
Exactly.
Right.
And the budget can definitely be reduced. We have a $778 billion defense budget this year, 776, something like that. I do see that as being excessive. But the thing about the defense bill is we don't get to see everything that's in it because a lot of it is black money for the Pentagon or black money for the CIA or the billions that go to the National Guard every year. And I still want a strong border, and I still want a strong military, but I think we could cut 30 to 40% off the defense budget just by holding the military responsible for their own inventories. That's just a fact that that we lose. We can't account for half the stuff that we're supposed to have in the military.
But you've got to account for every round you fire at the range.
Oh yeah. If you're not doing
they're losing tanks. Yeah, you're losing tanks, but the individual soldiers got to go pick up every single piece of brass and justify every round that went to the range.
That's right. So it's just ridiculous to think, and you get hit with that saying, "Well, I want to reduce our military budget." It's not. I want to reduce my military budget. I want to hold the people accountable that's getting the money. So let's stop and hold them accountable.
Well, the easiest way to do that is to stop holding next year's budget over the heads of departments, saying if you don't spend at least 90% of your budget, you're not getting your budget next year.
That's right.
So that's where you on the company level in the Army at least, when we get to the government fourth quarter, which is August, September, is you go and blow up every round of ammunition we have. Just get rid of it. If we don't get rid of it, we're not going to have it next year.
Yeah, and I think that's ignorant economics. And I think most people would agree with that, because save the money, put it back in the general fund. Hey, you didn't spend $50 billion this year? Let's write a big check to the deficit. Let's do something with this money other than, like you just said, you're just wasting money throwing rounds downrange.
Well, even if you give up promotion points to the company brigade commanders that come in under budget, hey, I'm going to fire off some more promotion points, because that's what motivates officers, is getting that next promotion.
Yeah, everything you're talking about, to be in the Army, a goal is to get to, in my opinion, lieutenant colonel. Once you get to lieutenant colonel, you've got it made in the Army. Everything up to that point is that you were looking at it to be that person, because everybody below you are the ones that are they're just fighting for anything to get moved up. But if I could be a lieutenant colonel in the Army, I'll tell you you couldn't tell me crap. I'd just be sitting.
Well, it depends on where you are.
Yeah.
I mean, I've known a few of the Pentagon. I mean, I've known some full bird colonels of the Pentagon who go and get coffee.
My wife's uncle.
It's all perspective.
My wife's uncle is probably like that. He's a retired full bird colonel in the Air Force, and he taught at the War College and stuff like that with avionics and aviation and stuff. And I could see him being like that, not wanting people to do his own thing. But the goal of the Army is move up or move on.
Yeah, and that's it. But if you could dangle that carrot, let's come in under budget, all the way down to the NCO ranks. Is if that first sergeant can come back from the range with 40% of the ammo that you went, all your guys qualified, and we still came back with 40% of the ammo to put it back in. You know what, Top? Here's something. Dangle a carrot.
Yeah,
Bring them in under budget.
I don't disagree with that, and I've never thought about it that way. So I mean, I really never thought about it that way of offering that kind of system. So I mean, it's something that I could definitely see, trying to be pushed in the military. And I would think that if you're on the Congress floor, that's something that you're trying to promote. You would see real quick who is about spending money and who isn't, just by getting a floor vote on it. So that would be
right. Well, that's one of those things that you'll get half of Congress to co-sponsor the bill, and it'll never get out of committee.
Right. So it's
what. Well, you guys are kind of getting way down in the
way into the weeds of something that
that most people, no offense, don't care about, or don't understand. I think is more the issue that they, if you can explain it to them like you did. But immigration.
Immigration is of course one of the next hottest points that everybody wants to talk about, especially in Georgia. And my immigration plan still involves closing the border, closing the gaps, but it also goes further to not deny people entry into our country, because that's just not me. I believe, I can't hate people, and I believe that most people coming over want to just have a good life. So my idea is to close our borders 100%, however we have to do it, in every 50 miles or so would be a processing station that can handle processing of people coming into the border, X amount of people a day, with full medical, get their shots just like an American citizen does if they go into a public school system, check for TB. The radical part about this bill, or my thoughts about this, is instead of paying coyotes, we charge a fee, $500, $750 per adult, $250 or so per child, and they pay this at this processing station to get processed into the United States quicker. At that same time, we would give them an ID and a 9-digit number, like I put the tax ID numbers that business use, and send them on their way. They have X amount of time to start their immigration process. We now have IDs, fingerprints, and this is where you crack down on employers. People are saying, because now with this new number, they're going to have to participate into our full economic system. And I think that's really what most people want. It's not that a lot of people care that people are coming across their southern border. They do care. And so there's definitely some shady characters that come across, but they want them to participate in our system. And it seems like the view is that most of them do not. So if we could change that up and show that no, they participate in our system, we're holding employers responsible, and they're going to be taxed just like you. So what is the problem now? You just don't like Mexican people, or what? That's my view on it.
I don't disagree that people, like, the issue is not only that they want them to participate, but they also don't want them to be eligible for benefits or social programs or things like that. I think people, and it's not necessarily true or across the board, but I think there's a huge stigma that people are coming here, even if it's just for services at our hospitals or something, and they're not paying because of whatever their circumstances are. I think the pull on the system in any way is what bothers people too. If they're paying into it, I think that's great. But then the argument turns into, like, we've got plenty of Americans that are pulling on the system. Like the system is its own problem on its own, that we hand out far too much.
Well, that's being a politician or wanting to try to change things. So, and that's what you get hit back with. Well, we have Americans struggling out here too. Well, I understand that, but I also understand that if they're not participating in the system, too, I would feel the same way about them as I would a foreigner coming across and not participating. Tell me why does your title as an American citizen just entitle you to free services? That's not what being an American
You could get rid of the entitlements.
You could. Do you think those are going anywhere?
It'd be nice.
It'd be nice. But let's be real. The entitlements come from the left and quite a few from the right side of the aisle, because we live in a nation where there's very rural, poor communities, and they depend on those services and handouts. So there's not going to be a politician who's going to stand up and say, we're taking all this away from you. Go get a job, earn it. You might as well, resign from office that day. So
it'd be fun, though.
It would be, but where's the happy medium in the scenario of entitlement? Where is somebody's going to be upset? And that's just
C'est la vie.
Yeah, I mean, that's just it's life. And so I'm like, I don't know what to tell people, because I can't hate people. If people are coming across our border, they're participating in our society, they're paying their taxes, they're paying their Medicare, they're doing all this stuff, they have earned themselves into a system. If you're an American citizen and you're just sitting on your couch being Miss Lazy Susan, you're not participating. I would rather give it to the person who's participating that's not a citizen yet than a person who is not and is a citizen.
Well, I don't want you to limit controversial opinions to the three most important issues. So we're going to do a little rapid fire right now. And Dave and I'll take turns going through a topic, and you just tell us in 10 seconds or less, like, what's your position on, or the first thing that comes to mind in terms of your position on that. So,
okay.
So first, additional COVID relief funds from Congress.
No, I do not support it. It's too much spending. We've pumped $20 trillion into the economy. We're at record inflation, and our store shelves are bare. So, no, I'm sorry. I do not agree with more CARES funding for COVID.
Expanded child relief credit.
Under my tax plan, I'd have to say no, because it wouldn't matter for how many children you have. If my plan couldn't get passed, I don't see expanding it at all. I don't think I'd vote on it, because it's not. I just had to say no, especially based on my tax plan. It wouldn't matter anyway. You can have 10 kids or one kid, you get treated the same.
Vaccine mandates.
Absolutely not. Not on any level. Local government, state government, federal government. Vaccines are your choice to do. So, no.
How about vaccine passports?
Absolutely not. I don't even want to show my ID to get a beer at Buffalo Wild Wings. Why would I want to show anything else to go watch a movie or to go visit the Bahamas or something? No.
Third-party ballot access, like doing some sort of federal legislation or prohibition on the states with regard to ballot access.
I absolutely support third-party candidates access on a ballot without having to jump through any hose, without having to pay any extra fees. I think citizens need that choice, and right now, independents are where it's at. That's where more people are identified as. And like I say, I wanted to run as independent, but the signature count for Georgia is just not happening.
And we haven't had a signature candidate for Congress that's an independent since like the 40s or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's been. Yeah, I think it was in the 40s. But it's just not, and people got upset with me for it, but the 5% match and the strict guidelines, even down to the size of how big your note board can be. And it's ridiculous. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Expanding the Supreme Court.
Nope. I don't think that's the definition of one party just wanting to stack the Supreme Court for themselves. I didn't agree with the holding off. When was it? They held off last time until the new president was sworn in. But then this last time, with Trump, they got the Supreme Court sworn in. I think the Supreme Court, keep it as it is. If there's a vacancy, Congress should be. We have 90 days to fill this vacancy, or 60 days to fill this vacancy, because you're leaving the court lopsided at that point. Understanding that the Supreme Court has, grew a little bit, but there should be mandates in place. This is a vacancy we must fill. It's in the best interest of the American people.
Weed.
I'm for legalization of weed on the federal level. I think removing it from the federal level, absolutely. When it comes to the states, you can't control what the states do. I really think that should be on the ballot for the state citizens to decide from that point on. I would vote yes for it.
Federal minimum wage.
I think wages are best kept between the employer and employee. The minimum wage law is great because it's so people can be kept out of intentional slavery. Go work here doing this type of labor for $5 an hour. Well, if you agree to it, that's fine. But let's give people a little bit what they're worth. But I don't think we should be changing the minimum wage, especially now that the average minimum wage is shooting up naturally on its own. Why don't we just let that occur and let the workforce handle it right now?
Well, speaking of slavery, private prisons.
I'm against private prisons, and I think every single one of them be closed. And I think the people that, well, you're costing me a job. You know what? We got 10,000 openings across other prisons in the state. Go to one of those. Matter of fact, we're going to give you a $3,000 stipend to help you relocate or whatever it is. Go work at this prison over here.
How about DOJ settlements for tragedies like mass shootings in Charleston or Las Vegas?
Those,
like when they say the government had some responsibility.
I don't think those shootings are happening on private property. No. The simple answer is no. I don't support those. I understand that the victims probably need compensation, and somehow that to me that is the job of the venue that this was held at itself. If it's at a church, I understand that, but government can't be everywhere all the time unless you want to start running under a Hitler regime, and then we'll just post up the military everywhere you want to go, and then it's my fault if you get shot. Other than that,
Roe v. Wade.
I am against abortion. The Roe v. Wade was turned into what it is today through a court system and attorneys. It was based on a privacy case to start with and got twisted to what we know as it today. And just to kind of extend this answer a little bit, I was asked this. I have a gay family member, and she's married to her partner, which I don't care about that. And she had called me and asked me a question about how is it, with Roe versus Wade is about women's rights, but now you have women that are transitioning into a man, but they become pregnant. Does Roe versus Wade protect them now? Is that now a woman's right or a man's right?
Lord, I don't know.
Men can't get pregnant. They just
exactly.
In that case, they just gave themselves straight.
Yeah, they just.
If a transgender man gets pregnant, that's just straight with extra steps.
Exactly. So can they use women's rights? No, it's a conundrum to me, because you want to be a man, but you also want the rights of the bodily protections of a woman. You really got to make up your mind, because it's going to come. There's going to be a court case on this. I have no doubt we're going to see it, and the courts are going to have to define what is a man and what is a female, and I think that needs to be done. You want to volunteer for that, Jessica?
No.
Oh, I can. But hey, in closing, Neil, tell us where we can learn more about you, follow your campaign, and connect with you.
Well, of course, you can see my stances on my website, which is neilforcongress.com, and it's NEILFOR Congress.com. My Facebooks are all my social media is Neil for Georgia 12. It's GA12. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff is easy to find. And right now I'm on a 7-day ban on Facebook, which is kind of common for me, apparently. I've been trying to behave, but calling somebody a far left zealot is apparently bullying.
Well, I'm disappointed, because that was one of my rapid fire things, which was big tech and Facebook censorship and everything. But
But
you know, you are like one of our former co-hosts. You spend more time, it seems like, in Facebook jail than not. And that's how I know if you're alive or not. Like if you haven't posted in a while, then I'll go to Jill's page to see if she's posted, hey, Neil's in jail again. He'll be back in 30 days or however long it is.
Last year was 190 days in Facebook jail. And this year, this is the first time I've been this year, but I really don't see, if you want a big tech answer, I don't like being censored, not at all, because I like to speak my mind about things. I don't sugarcoat much. The only way I see around big tech and censorship is you hit them in the wallet. Take it to where if you want to be a media source, which they are, a source of news and commentary for politics versus and all this other stuff, and you want to be listed on a national exchange, you're going to have to give a bit more leeway on freedom of speech. And
well, Neil, thank you very much. Speaking of freedom of speech, our freedom is running out on time.
Yeah, okay.
but we certainly appreciate you being so generous with your time and spending it with us.
Yes, thank you for coming on the show, Neil.
I appreciate it, guys.
We will certainly share your information on our show page when the show drops.
I do appreciate it. Of course, I'm always like talking to Jessica. So.
Sorry, Dave.
That makes one of us.
Have a good
Neil,
day.
once again, thank you very much. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
This is a good time to remind you that these are our opinions and not those of anyone not on the show or any respective company for which we've done so well for so long, respective company for which we may work, own, or otherwise associate ourselves with on a regular or irregular basis. Also, you can find other episodes in relevant stores over at thegeorgiavirtue.com.
I can tell when you're about to blow it.
I can hear you start. I can hear you too.
I can tell it's coming, and then it just gets worse. But that's okay.
Yeah, because I get ahead of myself. My mouth outruns my eyes. Again, big thanks to Neil Singleton for joining us. Jessica, you want to get to your closing thought?
Yeah. So, what do you do when you can't sleep?
I pace.
Literally, you get up and pace?
Yeah, I do.
Why?
I don't know.
Does it help? Does it make you tired?
No, I don't disturb my wife.
Oh. Well, I have lots of instances where I can't sleep, and so I usually pick something to read to try to make myself so tired but a couple weeks ago, I think, well, that's how I found the Antarctica article that I talked about in last week's show. And then the next night I read about how Poland paid a Guantanamo Bay detainee a sum of money because of civil rights violations and wrongful detention because of how they handled everything. So then I was down this rabbit hole of detainees and how common it is for countries that worked with the CIA and the black sites to compensate people. And then that took me to see how many detainees are left that have not been charged with the crime. And then I was reading about CIA blacklists, and then I wanted to know how the CIA recruits. And so I was like, okay, I need to stick to things like the world's largest potato, which was the article I skimmed over to go to Guantanamo Bay because I was so fired up after I read all of that. So I don't recommend reading. Pacing sounds like a better idea. I might have to stick with that.
Opening up my laptop and starting to read stories does not put me to sleep. Yeah. Oh, speaking of, right after our show dropped, mentioning the Antarctica thing, I saw the same story on Greg Gutfeld, right after we did it. So obviously, we've got fans in New York. Well, that makes sense. I figured as much. So last week, I guess week before last, right after we recorded the last show, Matt Lowe, his wife, my wife, and another couple all went to go see Ron White. We stayed at the Georgian Terrace and went across the Fox. I tell you, if you get a chance to wherever he may be performing, he killed that room. Just absolutely murdered the entire room. The opening act came on. He came on and just did just solid hour 20 minutes of people grabbing their sides, laughing. All new material. Fantastic. We had a great time staying at the Georgian Terrace. The hotel is not worth what we paid for it, but it's close to the Fox. And the Fox is still a great room to see a comedy show. There are two comics there that I've seen that just absolutely murdered the room. One was Ron White, the other was Robin Williams. And it's just a fantastic venue to go catch a show like that.
Awesome.
So, especially after the downer of the closing thought I had last week.
Yeah.
Might as well have something good. So, for Eric Cumby, our awesome editor, for Jessica, my partner in this endeavor, I'm Dave Roberts. Have a great week.
Oh, I've been running from the law. Hope they won't shoot me down soon. They sing on a sleepless night. Try to catch me howling at the moon.